Welcome to the Fantasy HQ podcast, all things NRL fantasy. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. Your hosts, Frosty and Stevo. Welcome everyone to round 23 NRL Fantasy HQ podcast, all things NRL fantasy. I'm here with Frosty next to me, and we are off the back of two pretty average rounds, if I'm honest. I think Frosty may have dropped a couple. I came in a couple ranks, but there wasn't too many major concerns. But how are you lined up for this round, Frosty?
Yeah, evening, Stevo. Good to see you again, mate. Fantasy front was a little bit average with about a 9-10, but we'll get into that later. Thankfully, though, the dogs got the job done. So the silence from the Wars fans have been bliss over the last few days because it's always a tough gig when we go down. But got the chocolates this time, so happy enough.
Notice how I didn't even bring it up in the intro?
Yeah, try to get away with it, but
yeah.
I'm here for you.
It was tough. We will this week be talking mostly trade targets. We're not going to talk about our straight sales as such because there's not really a huge amount of sales. You sort of want to be holding what you can. We'll touch on a few key players though that you might consider. We'll also touch on captain's choices and then sort of what trades you might have with how many trades you got left with 4 rounds to go. And at the end, we will talk about our just mentioned team round from round 23. So we'll start with the ins and outs for this week. And the key outs we've got here are the Broncos losing their trio of hamstrings to Adam Reynolds, Ezra Mam, and Cobbo. For Manly, for the Storm, Pappenhausen is out. For Manly, it is Jake Trbojevic. Sua Wong, also concussion, as is Jake for the Roosters. Cowboys lose Cohen Hess for the rest of the season through suspension. Brinton Nakora is out. Francis Molo is out for the Dolphins. You've got Moses Suli dropping out for the Dragons with his knee issue. Cam Pereira loses his spot, along with Kelly, who is out injured for the Titans, and Phoenix Crossland also injured. 2 others to note for the Warriors is Tamari Martin and Kurt Capewell, both out injured. In terms of the ins for the week, Big Tino repairs, along with Fotuaika for the Titans. Wade Egan for the Warriors, back on deck. We've got a bunch of no-names sort of there, but Jordan McLean for the Cowboys, Philip Sami for the Titans, Corey Pates and Karapani. A few people might be holding them. For the Broncos, they're back. For Manly, we've got Hopewadi and Ben Trbojevic back, both returning from injury. Toa for Tigers, he's back. And Tanner Boyd, after his late dropping from the Warriors, gets recalled. And there is no Jet Cleary amongst the reserves, so there's no chance I think Tanner drops off the bench this week. And that's basically our key ins and outs for the round, Frosty. Is there anyone there that straight away is sort of like stands out to you?
I think Tanner Boyd owners will be thankful, won't they, with Tamari Martin going down. Only HIA, so possibly only 1 week, but they'll be thankful to get another week out of him. But we were talking leading up to that game when we saw the finalised team list, and yeah, Boyd being there late dropping was a bit of a head scratcher there for the Warriors, and the pouring wet, his kicking game could have been a slightly different outcome there, but now we'll never know, I guess. But good to see him back, and he's a game manager that they might need to just unlock that the weapons they've got out wide.
It was certainly a sort of a desperate call to make by the coach, considering Tanner Boyd, yes, didn't play great maybe the last week or so, but he did have a good game prior to that. And in the wet conditions, and they knew it's wet. I mean, why do you not want a game manager in the team that kicks you around the field? I mean, in terms of Webster, he was unlucky in the fact that Tamari Martin got hurt so early on, so you don't really know what it would have been like. And, it could have been a different game. I don't think Tamari Martin was making a huge difference in those conditions, though. So It's interesting. And, yeah, I mean, Tanner Boyd, the good thing about it, if you have held him, or if you have brought him, he's going to have everything to play for this week. So he's someone that could sneak up there and, cause a bit of magic. I know someone like Zamo that is in our league, Frosty. He's got
Yeah.
him in the team, and I would have loved to have had Boydie not there because I want to catch Zamo in the semis of our next week, hopefully in the semis of our head-to-head league. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, interesting one. I think the other couple of big ones there is Fasolamari, Tino, and Fochuaka for the Titans. Having
Yeah.
those two back, we've mentioned it, but Jolliffe takes a bit of a hit from that.
Yeah, he will.
You're an owner of Jolliffe, and I'm pretty sure quite a few people would have brought him in. So maybe that's one that sort of hurts a little bit.
Yeah, another one possibly. Wong returned, and maybe if you jump back on for the run home. But yeah, gee, knocked out cold by the small fella. Only a head clash, but yeah, I thought the outcome would be the other way. But man, dropped like a sack of potatoes, and he will be missing a week or two.
Yep. So there are a few trade targets this week, and we'll jump straight into those now. And yeah, if you want to lead us off, Frosty, I know it looks very similar there in the hooker department, and there's a few obvious names throughout here that we'll just sort of briefly touch on or pass over, but we do feel this is a pretty good selection of players for your different your keepers, your secondary keepers, then your pod players that are low owned, and then your cheapies that hey, I need to get rid of a Kurt Capewell and I desperately need another player, and maybe that's someone that's that sort of 350k you've got to spend. So yeah, a few options if you want to run us through.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, this week the top row there, the first line of keepers, we won't touch too much on those guys. They are your ins and outs when it comes to gun keepers of the fantasy world. So they explain themselves. The likes of Grant and Haas, Preston, Katoa, Fermor, some of those are just the number one or number two spot in that position. So we just have them there in case you don't have them. They should be priority. And then after that, we get into a little bit of point of difference and how you might make that change in ranks for the run home. So we'll get into the hooker department, skipping over Grant because he's doing what Grant does every year now, which is great to see. Reece Robson, he's moved up a keeper position, probably more for our head-to-head players. They do have the bye in round 27, but if you'll set your final to round 26, that's not going to fit your league. So he's 80k cheaper than Grant, 160k cheaper than Brayley, and ever since Origin's been over, he's had 350s in a row. So a lot cheaper at 608k, and if he's busting out 50s for the run home, certainly a viable option, especially even in overall, you'd be able to get away with it if he is a backup hooker / bench scorer, and you've got cover there for round 27. More than viable in overall as well at that cheaper price, especially if you're short on coin.
I definitely think
Pod,
with Robson, really good option, averaging 50. They're desperate to sort of get wins. He's got to play a big role, and
yeah,
those head-to-head players, definitely. Most leagues going to be finishing around 26. So if you're in there and you need a 17th man, he's someone that should get you that sort of guaranteed 50, hopefully.
yeah, definitely. Pod point of difference in the hook department. Virals, 637k, under 1% owned, so massive pod play. An average of 66 across his last 3 games, 56 average over the last 5. Titans bench looks fantastic for him this week, for him to continue getting 80 minutes. And it's not a bad run for the Titans, not weak in any world, but Sharks, they're missing a couple key players for the few weeks to round out regular season. They've got Warriors who, as we've mentioned, are sort of struggling to find a bit of form again and maybe a bit of panic stations there. Titans also got the win in Auckland, which is tough to do, so they'll be full of confidence for that one. They've got the Dolphins who give up a lot of points and the Tigers to finish. So there are plenty of opportunities for attacking stats, especially if they can get the forwards on the front foot there. Walters, cheapy, named at 5'8", with both halves going down, and I've never seen anything like that in my life, Stevo. Not sure about you, but 5 seconds apart, bang, bang, Sniper's got them both. Walters is stepping up for the next 4 rounds, 365k, and if you're someone, for whatever reasons, needing a cheap backup hooker option, you don't fancy 2 guys around the 600, 700k, he should be more than viable for the next 4 rounds.
For Billy Walters, what would you see him averaging playing in the halves?
They're at 5'8", on the left-hand side, I'm going to guess. I would just say in around 35. Like, he might give you a 30. He might give you a 40 or a 42. So, yeah, 34 to 36 is somewhere where I'd have him.
It's pretty good coverage. There should be no reason he doesn't play every round as well. When they do rest players, if they do, Billy Walters
Yeah.
should play week in, week out. So, and they need to. They don't really have any halves to really play. And with Hunt in the halves
Yeah,
as well, it means the hook is open free as well.
I think Mam is 5 to 6 weeks. Reynolds will be back slightly earlier, so they might go Hunt to 6 come the playoffs. But I'm guessing Mam's not going to be back for that first week of playoffs footy that they'll scrape into. So they'll be building combinations for these 4 games. So certainly no rest, I don't think, for Walters. Front row, Payne Haas, skip over him. Man does enough talking on the field. Lindsay Smith for the Panthers, pretty much 650s in a row. There was a 47 in there 5 or 6 games ago. 750s out of his last 8 efforts. Panthers are rolling. We've spoken about it multiple times over the last few weeks. And they'll need to continue him getting 50 plus minutes. Again, rounds 26, 27. If they solidify that 4th spot and they aren't looking at getting a 3rd or a 2nd, they'll be looking to rest. And we aren't too sure that he'll be getting the rest, being a younger guy, younger legs, fresher. To be some of those older heads that have been around for a few years with Panthers. So he should be a solid 50 to 54, 55 point average in these last few rounds, and he has got a couple of meat pies in the last few weeks, so can get over the try line. Hopgood, I started with him to start the season. I thought he was a pod play at the start, and Jason Ryles come along and just put that on its head and suffered a few weeks of pain before cutting ties. Last 4 games, Ryles has decided he is a starting prop. Funny that, being a Maroons player usually. And he's averaged 59 minutes, 51 point average across those 4 games. He's had 2 65-minute games there, so he is chewing through some minutes, which is good to see. But that risk still lingers with Jason Ryles being coach, Eels season being done, player movement. They're forward thinking already before next year, so that is the risk. If Hopgood's not necessarily in the plans, well, things might come undone in the next couple of rounds. So if they don't, fantastic pod play, but that is the big risk there in the background.
I tell you what, Hopgood is. It was so disappointing this season with Hopgood because he's one of my favourite players to watch. And 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago when he made his sort of debut properly into the league and for the Eagles.
Yeah.
He was sort of averaging that 65 plus, and he was a borderline captain option every week. I had him in draft, and I got him in way down the pecking order, and he was my captain from basically the first 10 rounds. So going from that, you know he's got that potential too, and hopefully next year he goes back into a role where he is playing, 65, 70 minutes, playing that sort of sort of game, and handles the ball, offloads, and he's one for next year as well. That is sort of he should be around that 750k mark.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, his game is just fantasy relevant if given the minutes. But yeah, man, did not see the disaster that has been his rotation in roles, different roles, hooker and all sorts of madness. So yeah, as long as he doesn't get too high and he's cap price next year, won't complain. And to finish off the cheapies in the front row there, Bailey Hayward. Good to see a Dogs player back on the list this week. Named at hooker last week. There again this week, and it's looking like that's probably in the Dogs' plans. Reed's off to the Cowboys next year, so scored a 40 there in about 70 minutes. And if he does that for the next 4 rounds at 315k, dual position with a half, an absolute bargain if you are for some reason needing that cheaper option. Edge there, Preston again, spoken about in the week past, so we won't touch on him. KPP, second best edge in fantasy this year, 56 average. Averages 40 tackles and 110 running meters, so that is fantastic base, and that's what we like to see in guns base and keepers. So yeah, if you're after an edge, KPP would be top of the list for us this week. Jordan Ricky made mention of him, I think it was last week, just as a wee side note.
Yep.
Didn't actually make the graphics, but he's here as the pod play. Back-to-back 59s. He's had 650s in a row now, all without a try, which is fantastic for an edge player. Should get plenty of ball as well with Ben Hunt and Walters, who we spoke about just before. I imagine Walters on the left there at 6, Hunt on the right and 7, and they should be going right and feeding the likes of Ricky and Staggs. So I think a great pod play here.
Do you reckon Ricky demands more ball with those guys out, or do you think it does hurt his scoring potentially?
I see the Broncos going there, like Hunt, the older head. Again, it's a little bit like Munster. The pressure will now be on Hunt to deliver. Broncos are in a dogfight for positioning, so the pressure should go on him, the outer statesman, and with the weapons of Ricky and Staggs down that edge, I would be absolutely mind blown if they go left more so. I mean, they do like Walsh out the back left, but yeah, I'd be surprised if they don't be going right at least 60% at the time. And Billy Burns and the cheapies. Nakora, 3-week suspension, and they've got a bye, so he will not be seen again in the round robin, which is disappointing for Sharks fans, but supplies a wee opportunity here for any fantasy players looking for a cheap edge for the run home. 353k, 1% owned, and he's got a wee average of 38 in 80 minutes when he's been starting edge this season, so it's nothing to write home about, but at 353k, again, for whatever reason, if you're needing someone around that price point, round that up a couple of points to 40, you are more than happy as a backup, not a bench scorer, certainly not a starter, but if needed to be called upon, you'll be fairly happy with that coming into the team, say around 26 or 27 for whatever reason. Halves, Katoa, again, talked about him plenty, get him in when you can. Cam Munster, he's been great gun since Hughes has gone down and Wishart slotted in, 64 and 63. First one was with about 500 kicking meters, this one with 240, so it's halved, but it's still a great chunk, and it's still a good base for Munster, which he doesn't usually have in a fantasy season. So he's looking good, he's looking busy. As I said before, the responsibility's on him now that it's Hughes and missing in action, and they're trying to battle off the Dogs for that second spot in a home semi-final. So I can't see rest unless they get a game up here in the next couple of weeks. They do have each other in a couple of weeks' time, so may miss one, but unlikely at the moment.
I do think
Hunt, if you're a little bit iffy.
Just quickly on Munster,
fire away.
I do think with Puppy out, also it just means Munster demands a bit more. Like he's the organizer now. He is the threat. So with Puppy not there, and he scored well with Puppy not there previously as well. I do think he's prime for it. So
yeah, definitely all him and Grant. So two good players to have in your sides if you don't currently. Spoken a bit about the Broncos. Ben Hunt, halfback for the next 4 rounds to finish up the round robin. 51 average at halfback last year. Wasn't at the Broncos, of course, but it's good to see, even as an aging player, he's coming off a 50 average. So 449k, if he can produce an average of 47 to 51, 52, massively underpriced, and would be a fantastic pod play there as a 17th spot on your bench, ticking away a nice wee score each week. Wishart, price is climbing as he's smashed out a 76 with a try last round, a mix of halfback and in the middle. Very low break even, so he'll be skyrocketing again this round, you would imagine, even with a 40 odd if he was to produce that. So it's probably the last week before the boat sails at this time of the season. The runway's running out and trades are certainly drying up for most coaches. And it's just unfortunate timing for most of us who haven't jumped on. Already this week, it's probably a little bit iffy, but again, a fantastic person to have it probably that 18th spot in a loop option if Storm are playing early in the week especially. So yeah, don't leave it too long. It'll be this week. Otherwise, probably just bite the bullet as he's a half that can give you a mid-30s and it's not really surprising. So you don't want to be forking out 450, 460k and taking that risk with 3 rounds to go. Centres, Beau Fermor, dual position there. Talked about him, rock solid. If you need someone, he would be near the top of the list. Probably outside of Adam Dewey. Pod plays only about 5-6% owned. So he's probably at the top of our list this week because the last few rounds, whether it's been at lock, whether it's been half back at 7, he has been guns blazing for the Tigers, their form player. He's had 550s and 280s in his last 7 games. And that's an average of about 60. And looks to be the best centre option for the run home as a result, if he can keep this form up. I mean, 50s is worth scoring 7 weeks. So if he's giving you that at centre, that is happy days for sure.
Back in round, what was it? One of the Origin rounds, round 19, whatever it was, when I needed that centre, and we talked about it, and like Dewey was in my options there, and he was about 450, and it was like,
yeah,
okay, he's playing halves this week, but he's probably going to get dropped back down and then go back to just scoring 25s as a centre.
Yeah,
and he's just gone so good since, man. I am gutted I didn't choose him. Yeah, would have been a fantastic option.
Yeah, and might just give Zamo a shout out. You mentioned him earlier, but a massive pod play for him, and he's had him probably around the same time as you. He cashed in, and we mentioned top 500 for him in our league last week, but was top 200, about 190, and he's climbed even further up the ranks. So Adam Dewey, a big part of that.
I was with Zamo last night at cricket training, and he corrected me on that top 500 that he's actually around 150 at the moment. So, you know, he's already been in the top 100, finished the season before, and I can't help but feel a few of his calls this season have been a bit tinny. He's got a bit lucky with a few of them, but hey, results speak for themselves, and he's one very knowledgeable man.
He is, and yeah, when the punches are going your way, you just keep rolling because we know the fancy roller coaster. You certainly have your lows, so keep on trucking along, Zamo, eh?
We'll hope to get Zamo on the potty at some stage, either to start next season or maybe at the end of the season, depending where he goes. We might have a little recap, maybe see if he's recap on our season. So,
yeah, sounds good. And as we continue, in the centres pod play, Zach Lomax. For the real desperate people out there, certainly nowhere near my radar, but he is dual position, is 580k, has had a couple of 20s last couple of weeks, which probably put coaches off, but did have 5 straight 50s before that. So is capable of consistency, and that is mainly because he usually has a base of 200 running meters, which is just insane for an outside back. He touches it just about 30 times a game for the Eels, so he's in amongst it. Wet weather the last couple of weeks has probably been a result of those 20s. So, yeah, if you're desperate and you're after that point of difference, don't mind him with that flexibility of covers with a lack of trades too. Young fella here for the Dragons and the Cheapies, Buchanan. Got a start in a debut last week and honestly looked the goods. He looked impressive. Dragons left side's pretty handy. He's named there again this week. Tuipulotu is on the bench returning from his hamstring issues, though, so it is a slight concern. But you would hope that Dragons aren't rushing him back, so Buchanan might get one more week. But again, that's the risk, and at this time of the year, I can't see anyone really having trades. But again, whatever reason, if you are desperate for that cash out at the centre spot, he might just be it for you.
Hey, I could be wrong, but I think I saw that Tuipulotu played New South Wales Cup last week and did have problems with the injury, but he is listed, so I mean he is still carrying a bit of an injury by all accounts. So.
Yeah, Tuipulotu, yeah.
Tuipulotu, sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, interesting one, but again, it's that risk versus reward that we just spoke about with Dewey. You might take the risk and it costs you. You might take the risk and it comes off. So that's
exactly, yeah.
Life of fantasy. Uh, Jaden Campbell, great guns, was my captain last week, which we'll get into soon, but should have had a 70. My goodness, he will never showboat again, that man. But the man below him, Latrell Mitchell, had the hunger, even though they were battling it out for the wooden spoon. And you could argue it's a little bit unlike Mitchell in these smaller games to be caring that much, but hunted him down, and he played very well out of that left centre spot, returning from injury with a 64. And he could be the point of difference in head-to-head finals over the next couple of weeks for coaches. They do have a bye in round 26, so again, that might be the final or grand final for some leagues if you're in it and you make it that far. But if you've got cover, he could be the difference in these next 2 weeks. You've got to make it there before you worry about that sort of stuff. So he could be a real point of difference in these next 2 weeks. He has a gun, looks the goods, and he'll be in anything that the Bunnies are doing good. So
100%. If
this week,
you're focusing on head to head, you've got to get to the final before you're in the final, right? So Latrell Mitchell, he's one that is going to probably get you there. If it's a toss of a coin between like a Latrell Mitchell or your opponent has a Walsh, you'd be backing Latrell Mitchell all day, every day.
Yeah, and he was on your radar, wasn't he, Steve? We were talking before their game, and you're weighing it up, and risk of re-injury, and you're just about there, and could have had the 64, but just held off.
I would have loved him. I ended up going with KPP, so he ended up getting a 53, and I wasn't unhappy with that. I didn't need an edge, I didn't need a wing fullback, so I didn't need either. I wanted the best scorer, and at the end of the day, the buy as an overall option, it's just steered me clear to KPP. But, man, if I had extra trades, I would have Mitchell on the team.
100% with you there. But, low trades and that buy might just have to hold off. A man that doesn't have a bye and will be in desperate need of probably playing all 4 games is Walsh. He has been our pod wing fullback for a couple of weeks, but with those injuries going down, he will be called upon. He'll be having some big responsibility. He may even get some extra kicking meters, helping Hunt out. Can't see Walters getting too many. Only 11% owned still, 573k. Did have a 28, but it was a pretty subpar round for most wing fullbacks outside of Teddy with a 90 odd, and Campbell went all right as well. But before that, he had 6 straight 50s. So should bounce back with the position that the Broncos find themselves in, both in ladder position and personnel. No Mam may be the only concern, though, when it does come to personnel.
He does seem like when Mam's in the team, those two just have that bit of chemistry, eh? So Walsh went terrible to start this season without Mam, and as soon as Mam comes into the team, he scores 50s and 60s, and then last week is 28. As you mentioned, though, last week wasn't a good scoring week for wing fullbacks. So hey, it could just be a 1 week, and he could be back into his run of 50. So
100%. And to wrap things up this week for our trade targets is another young fella and another lethal edge, which is the Dolphins, just about the best in the game. Got a crack at centre after a couple rounds at wing fullback, and he did get a 42, and we said that might be a possibility, part of that lethal edge. It was with 2 tries, so it's not overly exciting, but he is part of the best attacking left edge in the NRL, so it might not be tries every week, but there'll be tackle busts and try assists and line breaks. So again, for whatever reason, if you find yourself in need of a cash out, he's only 267k. So he's pretty ideal with what he could do in a desperate call for help in the centre position in the run home.
Yeah, I think last week we mentioned that he was probably our cheapie of the week in terms of someone that should hold a position and is likely to score tries. So, I mean, he did that. 42 is not like incredible with 2 tries, but you'd be taking 42 from a 240k player if you have to play him. So, still a good option. 100%. Good coverage. If you desperately need a number, he's someone that's there to hopefully score a try or 2 for you.
Yeah, definitely. And before we jump off, Stevo, just very quickly, out of the pods this week, if you were in need of a pod play to make some ranks, who would you be looking at?
I wouldn't be looking at in those pods. I wouldn't look at Verrills, Ricky, Lomax, or Walsh. I'd toss up between Hopgood and Hunt, purely because Hopgood as I mentioned, I really like him, and he is potential of just keeping a few good minutes now because they don't want to be Spoon, and they're actually in a little bit of a good
Yeah.
run. And with Moses in the team, I think Hopgood plays a little bit better, maybe a bit
Yeah.
more direct through the middle. So I'd try and lock Hopgood in for a 50-point player, and then
Yeah.
Hunt. I'd also consider. I wish he had the hooker tag with him,
Yeah. 100%.
which I'd imagine next year he starts with the hooker tag. Maybe not, considering he'll play half the rest of the season. But
Yeah. Yeah.
if he had the hooker half dual at 440k, whatever he was, that's a
Yeah.
good option because he could average 45-50 as well. So I'd probably look at those two. What about yourself in the
Yeah.
pods?
Nice. Yeah, much the same. I'd just about go a Ricky purely because we've talked a lot about a Preston and a Katoa and the likes. Even a Young's come back down a little bit, and if Ricky could average 55 to 59, you could just about make up 10 points of average if those other guys average around the 47 mark. So
Oh, definitely.
a bit more risky, but yeah, Hopgood and Hunt. I do like the looks of Hunt. He'll be kicking and high responsibility. So yeah, Hopgood and Hunt would be my top two.
I think in terms of a pod play, all of those players have potential to go sweet 50 plus, and that's what you want in a pod. You want that point of
Yeah,
difference, and you want someone that has potential to score big at maybe a reduced price and low owned. So all of those
yeah,
guys have chance of winning you a head to head, and that's what's important. Or
yeah, 100%.
gaining ranks in overall, regardless of what rank you're at. So
Yeah,
yeah. We'll move on to some key questions, Frosty. And my first one for you is talking about captains. Choice for this weekend. Actually, before we touch on who we'll go this weekend, we'll just quickly touch on last weekend since you were the brave man and went against the Cleary. And
yeah. Gee.
you decided to go with Jaden Campbell. And both you and I had talked about it on the pod last time. And I think you mentioned you were going to go Cleary and I was going to go Campbell. Was that how
Yeah,
it was? And then we rolled out the opposite way. So I got cold feet, and you decided to go with a bit of a
full steam
pod.
ahead.
I mean,
Yeah,
it didn't go terribly in anyone's favour out of those two, but just
yeah,
prior to Thursday night's kickoff, I was like to you, I really want to go Haas. I feel like
yeah,
Haas is the one, and both you and I want to, and I think you might have switched it to Haas, but it was just too late, like last minute, too late.
yeah, yeah. Got it on
And
for
I
about a second. I thought I was in business, but yeah, swapped back to the VC on him, and captain went back to Campbell. So I was close, but split second in it.
And of course, for me, I got cold feet as I did with Jaden Campbell, and I
Yeah,
stuck with the other 80% of top 1K, and a majority of people, I assume, for Nathan Cleary. So,
yeah,
I mean, I wasn't disappointed. 64 and 84 with Haas would have been nice. That extra 20 points is massive. That's like
yeah. Oh
it could
yeah,
be it's like 100 ranks at this stage for us. And if you were and 30,000, an extra 20 points is still a lot of ranks. So yeah,
oh
a
yeah,
little call like that is a massive in terms of where you end up at the end of the season.
yeah.
But that leads us on to this week, and I want us to stick to what we say in this one, Frosty.
Yeah.
At least try.
Yeah, I'll try my best. Yeah,
So, captain's choice. The three main options we have are Cleary versus the Storm on Thursday, Haas versus the Dolphins for the Battle of Brisbane, and
yeah,
May versus Manly on Sunday. I'll start. I have my captain on May with a week off.
yeah,
Benji gives him 80 minutes when he's bloody tired, so I can't imagine him not
yeah.
giving him big minutes. So I'm going to stick with the safe bet and go May. How are you thinking?
Yeah, I was great minds think alike, Stevo, because that was exactly my thinking. So as soon as lockout lifted, I was straight May back into the front row and captain on him. Purely that coming off a bye, he will be guaranteed 80 minutes under Benji. Safe option after taking a pod play last week. But yeah, we're talking just before we jumped on here and realised with the Battle of Suncorp, Payne Haas is up against a young fella, Tafar, for the Dolphins. And if that is how the Dolphins roll out, I like Haas to go back-to-back 80s because he will be causing that young fella all sorts of grief. So there'll be offloads, tackle busts, possibly a line break or two. So pretty excited about Haas against a smaller, understrength Dolphins pack. So I'll guarantee no Cleary, no Campbell. It might be a late switch to May if I get cold feet, but more than likely I'll be rolling with Haas, who I missed just last week.
I tell you what, I forgot we talked about it at the start of the before the podcast started recording, and I quite like the idea of Haas as well. As you've mentioned, it's not a bad option. We did mention as well, Broncos are going to be desperate for wins. They'll be desperate against the Dolphins because that's someone that could catch them in the top 8.
Yeah.
So Haas you think has to play 65 minutes at least, unless they're winning by a big amount.
After last weekend.
And there should be no reason the Broncos are thrashing the Dolphins this week. So I'm hoping for a tight one or a high-scoring game. And a high-scoring game would mean a lot of offloads, most likely, from Haas. A potential line break here or there. So I don't mind that. I don't mind it at all. And, yeah, like you, I will have it on May. I may change it to Haas.
Yeah.
But Cleary will not be in my consideration this week. I will hope that 80% of people stick with Cleary, and I'm going to be going with one of the others. One. So, Cleary against Storm, there's always that chance that, Storm sort of defend really well. He doesn't get the attacking stats, and it's, like it's a low 50s or a early 60s sort of thing. Whereas the other two have that chance to go get a 75, so on average.
Yeah.
Right. Just quickly on captains. So real quick fire. Name me 2 pods outside of who we just talked about and outside of Campbell that you might consider being an option if you just really want to stir the boat.
I would probably go really rogue would be Drinkwater against Newcastle, just because I don't think there's too many other favourable matchups across the league. And then a second one would possibly be, in fine conditions, it would depend what the weather's like, an Aaron Clark against the Dragons. Again, much like the Broncos, Warriors in just about a dire situation now. Panic stations being hit. You'd like to think that their big guns are called upon. Clark's had a couple of quieter weeks. He must be ramping it back up, trying to solidify a top 4 spot. So a couple of rogue ones there. Not too many pod plays that I don't think this week. Teddy's got the Dogs. Dogs are pretty good defensively. Carraz's a couple of 40s at fullback. Hasn't looked the best fantasy-wise. So a couple of rogue ones from me this week. Stevo, yourself?
You just mentioned Carraz there. I think if Tracy was to move into fullback, he's listed amongst the reserves. Carraz could be an option against the Roosters. There's always a chance that they might leak. It could be like a 30 place 30. And, Carraz has that chance. He's just got that X factor that he could go and get, 80 to 100. So if you're desperate for a pod, maybe a Carraz if he moves to wing. And then Teddy just off the back of a 96. Same thing against the Dogs. I probably wouldn't do it against the Dogs, but hey, they've also leaked points recently. So I wouldn't, Teddy could be an option that it might seem a bit chasing points, but why not give it a roll if you need to?
And I mean, neither of us have him, but we did speak about him earlier on trade targets. If I had Latrell on my team, he would be my go-to pod option because Bunnies are up against the Eels, and he will be busy. So he'll be my number one if you have him in your side.
I would agree with that, and he should be in consideration if you're bringing him in. Next one, players that we won't be bringing in this week because they're on the bye, the Raiders. So players like Tapine, Horse, and Starling, and then others might, you've got sort of genuine keepers like Fogarty and Young. Are there any of those guys you look to trade out this week, or are you holding them, or what's your sort of go? What do you reckon?
I mean, if I had Starling still, I would probably be flicking him, uh, risking the sole hooker if you only had Clark. But I imagine most have a Grant or a Robson or someone like that we've mentioned over the last couple of weeks. So Starling would have to be a third hooker option. But even if he was a second option, I'd still be giving him a flick. A little bit inconsistent as of late. Tarpany, much the same, just inconsistent. Ricky looks to be sort of resting him and taking it easy with them up the top of the ladder and playoffs not too far away. And if you've got that luxury and you've earned it, well, you can't blame Ricky, and he's certainly not thinking about fantasy. So those two I'd be looking to um, get rid of if I could, and if I had both them. Horse, honestly, he has been a quiet achiever. I mean, he had a couple of quieter rounds a couple of weeks ago, back to back, like mid 30s, high 30s. But outside of that, I think his average is around 52. I got rid of him leading up to their first bye, I think it was. But man, he's looking like he could easily be a season long keeper. He's back to scoring a 50 last week, and if he does that at your 16th or 17th spot, you are more than happy. So I would, if I had him, just take the week hit, cover that, and enjoy the last 3 rounds with him. And much the same with Young. If you have him, you're taking the hit and cashing in on the last 3 rounds with him, and just hoping that they don't all get rested. I mean, surely a couple have got to play round 27. So yeah, you're hoping that the Raiders you have aren't the ones getting arrested come round 27. What about yourself when it comes to the likes of those sort of Raiders, Stevo?
I think you nailed it. I think Young, Fogarty, you're sticking with them.
Ogety, yeah.
You're sticking with those guys. A Horse, I also agree. He's been great all season, really. He's had a couple of down games, but not making Origin really went in his advantage. A lot of people traded him out thinking that he was going to be after his
going into that round.
He had a head knock in like round 11 or something, and trade him out then think, he'll come back for 1 week before Origin, then he's out for 3 weeks, but never made the team.
Yeah.
So I got off him then, which was disappointing because he was averaging 50 plus at that stage.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Tapani, I'd be considering Tapani going, to be honest. Just got him up on screen now. He's 35. He's still averaging 55, but that's due to his early in the season.
Yeah, top heavy. Yeah, at the start of the year.
And he goes and has the odds. He had a 65 a couple of weeks ago, but if they're winning games or if they've got top spots cemented, he's just one they're not gonna risk playing minutes. And it's at the point where it's like, geez, do you even want to play him in your 17 if you've got enough players? So, like for me, I'm not going to trade him out. I've got him and Young. I'll be keeping Young for sure, and I'm not going to trade Tapani out. But this week in particular, if I desperately need to make a trade because if something happens, Tapani might be the one to go. But at this stage, I don't think I will. But he is someone that if you've got an extra trade or two up your sleeve, maybe he's the one that is you're worth going. Because if he does get rested around 27, all of a sudden he's got 2 weeks off, and might score you 70
and spits out a couple of 40s. Yeah.
So
if you're a head-to-head, especially if you're a head-to-head coach, you're playing this round, and you've got a couple of trades up your sleeve. Again, you're not worried about trades for the final if you don't make it. Tarpany would definitely be top of the list of Raiders that I give a flick and bring in another 50, 55 point scorer to try get that win in the head-to-head finals.
Yeah, definitely. If your other option is playing like a cash out player that might give you a 15, then this is your trade to make to get a 50-point scorer in.
Yeah.
We'll quickly touch on it. Most people might not have many trades left. I'm assuming people might have one or two. I don't know what the average is for in the top X amount of players, but trades, should we be using them? Should we be holding them? There's 4 weeks to go. I only have one trade left. I think you have two trades left. I've just mentioned there that
both in the hurt locket.
I don't plan to use it this week, but if I desperately need to, I may. What about you? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you're in our boat, ideally you're not. If you get down to 0 and you've got 3 weeks left, yeah, you are really just starting to ride that uh, wishing and hoping roller coaster of fantasy, and that's never ever really been too successful for anyone, I don't think. But if you're sitting around 4 or 5, you've got one up your sleeve, even two. If you've got two left for 3 rounds, it's not the world's worst, especially with the carnage that sort of unravelled the last few weeks with Herbie and Yao and Hughes and the likes. Some big names have gone down. You've probably got a couple there you can use. And like we mentioned, head slightly different. If you've got 2 or 3 trades and you've got a Tarpany and you've looked at the matchups and you're thinking it's pretty close, too close for comfort, I'd be spending one on the likes of a Tarpany with a buy, but certainly not for the youngs and that. So head slightly different. If you've got a Raiders player or two, look at it. Overall players, ideally, if you're 1, 2, or 3, probably holding and just buying the bullet for a week, see how your team goes, and getting back to a healthier amount where you've got a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up pretty well there. And on that, we'll look at our teams and how we went last week. So I'll start with you, Frosty, and I've got your team up here now.
Yep.
Do you want to walk us through or talk us through it?
Yeah, gee, started the round at 450 and just about a thing of nightmares. We had Tarpany's 35 and his ownership's not the highest these days. Edges both in the 40s, quite only just scraping a 40 flat, so pain in the edge department. And then some real pain. I traded in Edwards and end up looping him and he scored a 30 flat, and I was like, wow, I'll play King Togi because he might give me a 34 or 35, and wow, look at that, he scored a season high 53, so a little bit of luck there for me, which saved me from being in the 800s. Ford 21 out on the edge, injuries there to the Warriors, and he was just doing absolutely nothing there in the wet as the Warriors were getting dominated by Dogs. And then got even worse when Geimer doesn't play the 480 and is sharing minutes now on the right edge outside Moses. So, yeah, the wheels really started to fall off and a little bit shaky for the next round or two until Yao gets back. May's back this round, thankfully, but Tarpany this week, which I sort of have to hold with 2 trades. So interesting week coming up, but hopefully Edwards can go well enough on my bench against the Storm and Haas can smash out 100 as a wee pod captain, hopefully, and I can sort of get through. So that's sort of where I'm at. What about you, Stevo?
There's my team. I'm ranked 1071, so I came in 50 ranks roughly. So I've just sort of cruising my way in the last couple of weeks, scoring a 943, which wasn't too bad. I wasn't the happiest with how things went. There's, as you mentioned, the likes of Crichton and Tapani was disappointing, but a lot of people had them at the same time. Turbo moving back to fullback. We did mention that I wasn't as keen with him at fullback, and I'm gutted he's there again this week. We didn't mention it, but Hopewadi is gone into the wing, and the good news is Garrick has moved into centre.
Yes.
Garrick to centre, Turbo at fullback. So this week I'll probably end up playing both of those two as well. So a bit of fingers crossed there. Yeah. And Galvin sort of snuck in a 35, but it was a pretty ugly 35. I did bring in KPP though. So I sort of tried to load up on some sort of big scoring edges and forwards. So KPP and Young are my sort of 2 recent bring-ins. And yeah, KPP went great. Happy with that. So yeah, hopefully this week is moving back inside that top 1K. That's the goal for this week. And we will really quickly go over our tipping just for this week. We missed it last week, but we'll get straight into it now. Panthers versus Storm. Panthers, I think, to go 10 straight. I've got my money on them. Is there any different thought for you, Frosty?
At Panthers or Storm, do we know?
It is at Panthers.
At Panthers. Oh, comeback I see here on the side. Look, I'm going to go Storm to derail them and put a wee halt to them and give the Wars a bit of a chance to reclaim the 4th spot eventually, hopefully. So Storm to hopefully do the Wars a favour. There you go.
Great transition in there to the Wars, who I have my tick on there, being favourites against the Dragons at home.
Mount Go Media Stadium. Mount Smart. Gee, well, I'm not sure how much that's got to it currently when the Titans tip you up, when they are wooden spooners. Dragons have looked pretty good. So, again, tough place to win, but they've looked all right. I will go Dragons in an upset.
So we're two different
Storm,
bets right now.
Storm to give them a chance. Warriors not to take it. There you go.
Oh, storyline. Next on the list, I'm picking we might go three opposite ones in a row here. So this could be a week that really changes things. I've got the Roosters beating the Bulldogs. I imagine it's different for you.
Yeah, gee, Roosters have been in some good touch lately, and they're finding a bit of form, which is worrying. But yet, I'll back the boys there. Big game. I'm actually really excited for this one. Dogs tough run home, starting with these guys, and a true test. I think it'll show where the Dogs are sitting currently. So I'll back them to get it done by 2 points. There you go, nail biter.
Nail biter. Next we have on Saturday the Sharks versus Titans. For me, it is the Sharks.
Gee, yeah, I don't think I'll go with the Titans. I've picked them a couple of times recently, but after last weekend, Sharks missing a couple, but they'll be too good at Shark Park.
Next up, we have the Battle of Brisbane. Broncos versus Dolphins. I am going to lock in the... Oh, God. I don't know. I will go the...
Confidence.
Ugh. I'm not sure who I want. I'm going to go the Broncos.
Yeah, look, I was going to go Dolphins, but if I'm captaining Haas, I can't really afford for them not to run the Dolphins over. So Haas to get them on the front foot with Carrigan. Hunt to show a bit of class at 7. But I don't like it, but fantasy-wise, captaincy, if I'm backing the big fella, I will go with the Broncos.
Next up, we have Rabbitohs versus the Eels. Eels are actually favourites here, and I'm gonna back Latrell. I'm gonna go Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't like it though, but I'm gonna go Rabbitohs.
Yeah, gee, they've been a bit of a basket case. The Eels, they have looked better, but gee, Rabbitohs did get a win in the Spoon Bowl, but injuries are still there. I will go with the Eels. Dylan Brown at centre, eh? How about that last week? Gee, that is something that I didn't think I'd ever see, but there again this week. Just about a Mitchell Moses 2-point field goal to get them home. There you go.
Oh, I tell you what, I kind of want to switch my bet back to Eels, but for the difference, I will stick it. I will keep it on Rabbitohs. Next, we have the West Tigers against the Sea Eagles, who, see, quite a lot of these games are a bit of toss-ups for me. I think there'll be some upsets, so I'm going to stick with the Sea Eagles.
On the Sea Eagles, Stevo, you mentioned them before when you were talking about your team with Turbo and Garrick. Hopewadi is back this week, named on the wing though. Do you think that's a late change? Him to fullback, Garrick to left wing, Turbo to centre? Or do you think Turbo's going to stay at fullback?
It could be. I mean, if he had been in the reserves and it was likely he was going to return, I would have thought that would be the case. The fact that they've named it as that, I don't see why, because Hopewadi was playing fullback previously. So I just don't know why they would name it like this and then switch it around. And to be honest, I would have preferred to see Talau on the wing and Hopewadi at fullback and Garrick and Turbo as the centres. I think that's the better setup for them. If there was a late switch, I would hope it's that, but I don't think they'll take Talau out of centre. If he is in centre, I think. So I think that's where they'll keep
Talau on the bench at the moment. They got Turbo, Saab on one wing with Hopewadi, the other, Garrick and Kohler in the centres.
Yeah, Kohler. So
Talau on the bench.
Yeah, they won't move Kohler out there. So yeah, I mean, I do understand the fact that Garrick has been wasted out there, and I think that is hurting them.
Yeah.
And you'd probably rather play Turbo at fullback rather than wing. So, and Hopewadi did play well at wing as well. So, I mean, I think this is the way they'll keep it then.
Yeah. And look, after beating such a good unit, I will back the Tigers to get another win after beating the Dogs a couple weekends ago.
Geez, I'll have to listen back to this potty to make sure I get all these right, because I've only got like two games on the same. To finish off for the week is Cowboys versus Knights. I'm going to back your narrative of Drinkwater to go big and Cowboys to win.
Yeah, Knights didn't look too bad last round, I don't think. But, Cowboys a bit of a basket case again, but it'll be their day, I think. They need a couple of wins, so Cowboys with you, Stevo.
No, we'll lock that in, and I'll make sure that gets posted up onto social media, since we've got maybe 5 different opinions there. So
yeah,
be a good week. I think I might be leading by 5 points. So this could be
-1 for the Dogs over the Wars last week when we missed it.
This could be it could be all on after this week. We could be going into the last 3 rounds with even playing field potentially.
Yeah,
I'd hope not.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Because otherwise, that means the Wars lose, the Panthers lose, everyone light loses. So a bit devastating for me.
And the Dogs get a win.
No, that was our podcast around 24, and thank you everyone for watching and listening. We will see you next week. Anything you want to say, Frosty, to finish?
You know how it is, Stevo. Go the Dogs.
Enjoy this round of league, everybody. We appreciate your support for the Fantasy HQ podcast, all things NRL fantasy. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Facebook, and most importantly, thanks for watching.